Happy New Year, and I am back with kind of another Destiny video, but kind of not. On New Year's Eve, someone suggested I should do a Q&A rather than spend all night typing on Twitter. I figured that people could just ask me questions there, and then I would film a video response to, I don't know, at least some of them. There's a lot, so I don't think I can get through all of them in a reasonable amount of time, but I'll try. And I mean, there's really nothing to talk about in Destiny. As I'm filming this, we just finished the Dawning event, which gave us an Ascendant Shard and a random exotic, kind of as expected. So I don't see the point in making a whole rant video about that. Like, you guys know my thoughts about that. I wrote an article about it. They got to do better than that, honestly. That's a whole other thing that I won't get into. This is more just about answering your guys' questions. Some of these will be about Destiny, some won't be. I think it's a pretty good mix. We'll see. I haven't really pre-read all of these, so this might be kind of on the fly. I won't be able to get to all of them, but I will do as many as I can. And yeah, so how does Briar do it on DCP? He just kind of like goes through and reads them and then reads the name. Okay. So from Mikey on Twitter, we have, what's one habit practice that you've adopted during the pandemic quarantine that you hope to continue with once normal life returns? And he gives the example of he goes grocery shopping for a whole week. I thought he was going to say, what's one habit that you would stop doing? And that would be probably ordering out for every single meal. Most of the time I have been a lot better about working out. I have like a home gym in my basement, so I've had very little excuse to not work out, unlike most people where the gyms have been closed. I'm hoping that even when things open up again, I will still be able to work out and do that. I really enjoy hanging out with my dog all day. She's not here right now, unfortunately. I'm sorry she's not making a cameo. But I work from home always. So the thing about the pandemic is, like, it didn't change all that much for me personally, because I've been working from home literally for 10 years. So it just, society in general has changed, obviously, and, you know, a lot of bad things have happened, you know, around me and with the whole country. But for me personally, it hasn't changed my habits too much. I do miss going on vacation or going out to dinner and stuff. I think there's some questions about that later. From Chipua, there seems to be a feeling of burnout with some of the top names in the Destiny space. Are you there too, burned out? I feel like we're at the time in Destiny that happens pretty much every season, where there's about a month left to go and there's just like nothing really left to do. We have just a couple more things for Season of the Hunt. I will say that this season hit a little differently for me because of a combination of sunsetting and content vaulting. I'm more okay with sunsetting than I am content vaulting, but it does really seem like the game has lost something in my estimation. Not like enough where it's going to get me to quit or whatever, but that I think is contributing to it too. Like I wrote this the other day, like I can't even run the strike playlist anymore, just as like something mindless to do, because there's so few strikes now, and so many of the ones are so repetitive, and like some of the worst ones stayed and some of my favorite ones left. So it's stuff like that. I think the game has been hurt by vaulting, and the grind doesn't also seem as motivating with sunsetting, because it's just something in the back of your head like, okay, well, this item has an expiration date, so how much really should I be going for the god roll of this, or should I just be satisfied with it? So I think that is contributing, and yet we are also at the part of the season where, you know, this is just kind of how it happens every season, where there's about a month of dead time per season. From Juan Pablo, my rating buddy, what are some of your professional goals in 2021? How can we best support you as you work toward those things? This is an interesting one. I need to like go down and actually make a list. YouTube is a big one. I want to keep growing YouTube. My goal, I think right now, is going to be 50,000 subscribers. I'm almost to 25,000. I hope that is achievable. I don't really know how to grow on YouTube other than just like pleasing the algorithm, and then more people just coming here for my Twitter, my articles and stuff. That's a big goal I have. I might start writing at a couple additional outlets, just to kind of expand my horizons just beyond Forbes. I don't imagine I'll write any less for Forbes. It's just all these different places. I've toyed in the future with doing like a subscription newsletter or like a Patreon for posts or things like that. I may do that someday, depending on how things go with current writing, but I think I'm going to stay off of that for now. My goal is always to just continue to, grow my readership, and I guess now with YouTube, grow my viewership. And you guys can support me by subscribing and telling people you don't subscribe and recommending me. I don't know. I'm not for everybody. I get it. But if you're here watching, you've done, more than enough already, probably. Sorry for pronouncing any of these names wrong. Frequent Twitter commenter, Kaibar Omar. State of looters now. Any hope for Avengers, Outriders, etc.? Avengers has a very long road ahead of it. Very, very long road. I think they are going to need a big, big moment, which could be their Black Panther update sometime this year. But short of that, it's hard for me to see these like smaller content updates or individual characters coming out to really turn that game around. It needs a lot of work kind of at the fundamental levels, and it does somewhat feel like it's falling into Anthem territory where there's a promising base, but without a huge amount of work, it's going to not be able to fully turn things around. I don't know if Crystal Dynamics is being given the freedom and runway to make that happen, but I would love for them to have at least like a full year to do like whatever the hell they want, to, release all the characters and content they can and see where we are from there. Outriders, at this point, I have learned to be very skeptical of new IP looters. What I've seen from Outriders looks pretty good. It is selling itself as like not really a looter, like a game that does kind of have a hard endpoint that you're not supposed to be playing indefinitely. So I'm not like, even though it has kind of gear rarity and the stuff that you would expect with looters and classes and stuff, and it looks shockingly like Destiny in a lot of the armor setups I've seen. I don't know if it doesn't seem like it's even trying to be like the next big looter, but at this point, all you want to be is like passively okay. So if it's got a solid campaign and I get, X amount of good hours from it, I guess that's all I'm really expecting. That said, I have not played any like early previews of it or anything. The stuff I've heard has been pretty positive, but it does look a tad generic to me. I kind of want to play it in action and see how it goes. What was your dream job when you were young? Oh man, that's tough. When I was really young, I think I wanted to like be a paleontologist because I was obsessed with dinosaurs. As I got older, I thought I would probably just end up working at Ford Motor Company like my dad, who worked there for 30 years. In college, I almost went to business school until I didn't get into business school, and I ended up with an economics major that I did nothing with, but I was working at the school paper at college, and that led me to my writing career. So I kind of enjoyed writing when I was younger. I never thought I wanted to like write for a living until pretty very late into college. So my childhood dreams of being a paleontologist did not pan out, but I'm still pretty satisfied with it. Will you be covering other games in future on your YouTube channel? Yeah, I think I'm going to have to at some point. I love Destiny. It's great. I would love to be talking about, the new Avengers update with Kate Bishop or Cyberpunk. I could make a video a day about Cyberpunk at this point. My capture setup is weird. Like I'm not like a big tech person. So even the fact that I managed to correctly get a YouTube channel online is something. I would have to play a lot of these games on PC because capturing on PS4 or PS5 now is going to be harder. I do have Cyberpunk on PC now, so I'm going to try and pick up more games on PC so I can capture footage from them. Or maybe I just won't capture footage because, as you know, if you watch this channel, I do that super often. But we'll see if I could, become the MTash making Genshin Impact opinion videos or something. But I would like to cover other games. I just haven't done that yet. I wanted to start with a base of Destiny, and then I will probably slowly bring in other games to this in the future. I will probably have to change my intro title card because it just says Destiny videos for now. Do you realize that the vaulting of content is a main factor in improved performance on console? If so, why would you want the vaulted content to return? This is in response to my article about how I wanted all the vaulted content back because they deleted too much stuff. I understand the technical reasons why content was vaulted. I do understand that the game's performance and ability to patch things faster has improved. I do think there is a way to essentially like scrub the old content and to remake it in the way current content is made and put it back in the game, fundamentally, it still just strikes me as weird and bad to take away A, half the game, period, which just means there's a lot left to do, and B, content a lot of people have paid for, even if it was made free to play eventually. So I don't think bringing all the content back necessarily mandates, like, okay, the game is just going to perform way worse now. Like, I don't know enough about game development to say that for sure, but I think there is a way to bring back a lot of the old stuff without necessarily just like tanking the performance of the game and making balance patches take 6 months again. I like your novels, but curious if you ever see yourself writing anything outside of the sci-fi genre. Current book I'm working on is kind of fantasy. If I had to like put it in a category, it would be like, it's post-apocalyptic still, which is sci-fi, but it's kind of like Diablo, like that kind of world with like angels and demons and stuff like that. I'm about halfway through that book. I've been working on that since Hero Killer 1, so we'll see if I finish it or not. Then I've got a couple other books floating around, but those are sci-fi, so we'll see. I do have one book idea, at least, that has like a chapter done where it's like based on my life as like a 2000s teenager who's like a big dork and really into Pokemon cards and things like that. We'll see if that materializes, but that's been fun to work on, and that's not sci-fi at all, so we'll see. How do you get hair like that? Genetics, and then you do that, and it's done. You ever in normal non-COVID times do conventions, PAX, Comic-Con, etc.? No, I don't. I do GuardianCon. That is the first major convention I went to. I don't love conventions, like even before the pandemic. It's just very crowded. I don't like huge crowds, but GuardianCon is different. It still has huge crowds, but it's special because I have a lot of friends there, well, internet friends that I can then meet in real life and they can become real friends. And I just, I'm so into Destiny that it seems like if there was ever somewhere I would go to, it's that. But I never went to E3. I didn't care to go to E3. Stuff like that is just easy to cover remotely with everything being Twitch streamed. So and I don't get those kind of trips paid for. I'd have to do it out of pocket and write it off as an expense. So something has to be really special to me in order to do that. And GuardianCon is that level of special. I don't know if GuardianCon will happen this year. I hope it does, but it seems like it might not because we might be close to the pandemic still. Why? Sorry, I'm not reading the names of the people asking the questions. I apologize. Those were from Nick, Roxy, Simosaurus, and Tony. All right, I think I got them all. From Lick Early. He's one of the frequent Twitter commenters too. Why do you think every looter launches with terrible loot? Anyone making a new looter, I would recommend making your loot more powerful than you think it should be and make your drop rates better than you think they should be. I cannot count the number of looters, all of the looters have launched with drop rates that are very low and almost always legendaries that are dramatically underpowered and have to be buffed later. And I think the risk of boring players is worse than the risk of potentially breaking difficulty balance of your game. If there's anything Cyberpunk did right with its limited scale of loot, it sure made you overpowered pretty quickly and able to blow through things, which may have gone too far the other direction, but honestly, that I think is more fun than never getting good drops and having everything you find be super boring. From Big Man, why don't you like Doom Eternal? I just really bounced off that game. It felt different than the original Doom remake in a way that I didn't like. Like, they changed the flow of combat, they changed the difficulty. It just did not seem like the same game. And it's weird because another Bethesda game did that exact same thing to me. The difference between Wolfenstein and Wolfenstein 2, I beat that game to the completion, but Wolfenstein 2 I couldn't get into, and I don't know what they did to those games, but they did not feel nearly as good to me, and I don't know, maybe I should have given it more of a chance, but I did not like it this time around. Let's see. What's your go-to comfort food? From David Silva, another rating buddy. It is definitely pasta, all sorts of pasta. Mac and cheese. Noodles and Company is like my favorite restaurant, if you could call it that. One of the most tragic stories about moving here to Cincinnati was when we were looking for places where I'm living now, there was a Noodles and Company like 2 minutes away. And then as soon as we moved here, it closed down, and now the closest noodles and company is like 25 minutes away, which extremely bums me out, and they don't even deliver here because it's too far. From Havoc Maker, how long have you been with your wife? How long did you guys meet? So today is our 10th anniversary of being engaged. I proposed to her on New Year's Eve 10 years ago in 2011, I guess technically, yeah. And so we have been married 7.5 years, I think is the correct number now. There are two stories of how we met. One that we tell some people, one that we tell other people. The first story is we met through a mutual friend on Facebook. My friend's girlfriend was my wife's sorority sister, and I just moved back into town from New York, and she suggested we meet up. The first time I actually met my wife was when we were both still in college, and I was a campus blogger, and I did a hottest girls on campus contest, and lo and behold, she was contestant number 4. That was the first time I saw her, and then I talked to her a little bit during the contest. At the time, she had a boyfriend. Like, I met her in person like once or twice, just through sorority stuff, and nothing happened or anything. And the true story is we didn't start going out until the Facebook meeting, like about 2 years later. That's the first time I saw her. We only tell some people that story because it is embarrassing now, these days in 2021, that I made that contest at all and that she entered, but there were different times, and I don't know, you learn. I wouldn't do something like that these days. It's too, no. But that's how we first originally started talking, at least a little bit, but we didn't actually start dating until a long while after, until I moved back to Michigan. Do you ever have any pushback from Forbes for focusing a lot of your articles on Destiny? No. I can count the number of times on one hand out of 7,000 articles or something, how many times I've been like actually pushed back about something I've written, and it's never been like because you're too focused on one game. I think they, for the most part, respect the kind of niche that I've carved out with Destiny coverage, and our video game coverage in general with all of us has made the gaming section of Forbes like one of the biggest gaming destinations on the internet, believe it or not, based on our views. So yeah, so far it has mostly been fine, and I hope that continues. Introvert or extrovert? From A. Roberts. I am definitely more of an introvert. Filming things on video is, I don't know, you can tell I'm not like super high energy from these videos, right? I mean, I think that comes across. I think part of it is my delivery, my somewhat monotone delivery, but I am generally speaking mostly an introvert. If you could only, from S. Morehouse, if you could only play one game the rest of your life, what would you play? I guess it depends how frequently it was updated, right? The obvious answer would be Destiny, just because it's like kind of the forever game. I could probably grind a Diablo game until the end of time because those are endless and I love them, and that would probably not be healthy. Who's your favorite hero killer character to write? For the uninitiated, Hero Killer is my 4th book. I wrote Hero Killer 1 and Hero Killer 2. 2 was out last year. And it's kind of like a gladiator story mixed with Hunger Games and Running Man and a bunch of things. And I would say probably, it's hard to not go into, because he has some spoilery questions too, but also that was from Julie. So she, I think. I would say the character of Violet in my 2nd book. That was the first time I've ever written a female lead out of the 4 books before that, which I found challenging but really enjoyable, and by the end I really liked her as a character, and I'm very happy with the way she turned out. I do also really like Mark, who's the lead of the 1st book. Hopefully just those 2 facts alone didn't spoil anything. If you do want to read them, you can find them on Amazon. Let me know what you think. Curious what your from Wolf Cola Classic. Curious what your true feeling is on Cyberpunk. Your tweets are more or less a dunk fest, yet you're also like several hours into a 2nd playthrough after 100%ing the first one. That is a good question, and I am struggling to answer it. There is a lot in Cyberpunk I really like. I really like the general world of Night City, the world building and detail that went into it in terms of like a space that I want to occupy. I find it much more interesting than like a GTA city. It's more vibrant than like the Destiny Tower or something. I think they did a good job with the main storyline. A lot of the main NPC side characters are some of the best NPCs I think that have been introduced in games in a very long time, whether that's Judy or Panam or River, and not just because of the romance options, just because like the storylines are genuinely very good. I fundamentally enjoy gameplay. It's a little easy, but it is extremely fun to freeze time and run around and slash up a group of dudes with a samurai sword. And now I'm a hacking playthrough to do just absurd things with hacks that can like clear an entire building before you're even spotted. So like things like that really work for me, and I like pursuing those builds, and I like the fashion. Like I like Destiny fashion, I like Cyberpunk fashion, and building things for cool screenshots and things like that. The game is fundamentally broken and unfinished. Like that's just a fact. It is totally unfinished, and there are so many basic things that it's missing, both in terms of like obvious things it needed, like the AI is just terrible, and then things that were kind of promised features that were just cut completely, and you can see kind of the surgical scalpel marks all over the game. And I'm genuinely offended by how the review process of this game played out as a reviewer, where you had to sign this like crazy NDA, which I didn't sign, so I didn't get early access to it, but like they were forbidding people from showing their own gameplay footage when they released their reviews. They only gave out PC codes, and those were likely going to be reviewed with people with great PCs. They purposefully hid how the game performed on last gen, and then pretty much outright lied about it. Like that is the stuff that, if I've been dunking on it, I think I've been dunking on that stuff the hardest, because that is the worst aspect of this, and that should not be overlooked. And like, I'm not saying we should never forgive CDPR till the end of time, but that is a pretty serious issue. So it's split. Let's see. What was the hardest part of writing your first novel, from Duncan? It's just getting past like the planning stage in your head and actually getting like the first chapter down on paper. I found that other people I know that write or try to write, they get lost like in massive outlines and world building documents and super planning stages, and like that's great and that can be useful, but like unless you can actually put words on a page, like that is the biggest barrier. And once you can kind of get over that, it becomes a lot easier. Having someone to read as you go and like give you feedback, whether it's good or bad, is also useful, which I had. And once you get rolling, I mean, you kind of don't want to stop. If you've finished a book, then it's like, hey, what's another 2 or 3 books? I have slowed down right now. I'm a little disappointed in myself. I've been writing more, but yeah. Benaix asks, games that are coming out in 2021 we're looking forward to. God of War 2, just kidding, that's not coming out in 2021. Horizon Forbidden West, I am very much looking forward to. I am really looking forward to seeing what they do with Halo Infinite. I agreed with everyone that it looked terrible when they showed it, but I respect them for making the crazy hard decision to delay it into the full year. That's crazy. Like, I would never have expected they would go that far. I hope it turns out well. Halo, some of my most played games of all time, at least the original Bungie ones. I haven't loved the 343 ones, but I'm always going to give them a chance. So I'm certainly going to look forward to that. Obviously, the Witch Queen, the Destiny expansion, and then the Anthem reboot, if that ever gets here, I will look forward to seeing what the hell is going on with that, but that's hardly a guarantee. Monkey Chris D2 asks, why does no one ever look happy to be on Fireteam chat? That's a good question. We all love being on Fireteam chat. I know it's like Destin's baby. He just might look tired because he's worked so hard. He does so much stuff for IGN. I know Travis is like overjoyed to be hosting it now, and I know Brian loves being on it too. I just think both me and Brian, we're just kind of lower key personalities, and then in my case, everyone thinks I'm mad all the time because of my eyebrows, but this is just how my eyebrows are, so it always makes me look mad, like painting, angry face eyebrows on somebody. So unless I'm like really happy, you can't really do anything to change that. Let's see. This is interesting. Nerdy asks, do you feel like you've gotten more popular this year? Are you going from, oh yeah, that guy from Forbes who writes a lot about Destiny, to Paul Tassi from Forbes said that XYZ? If so, do you feel more or less comfortable about putting yourself out there with more vids and stuff? That's interesting. It's like, I don't know, it's a weird question to answer without like sounding like an a-hole, but I mean, I think I've literally kind of gotten more popular. Like, I don't know how many Twitter followers or whatever I started the year with, but that has gone up significantly, mostly because I'm just doing a lot of memes in Destiny, which get shared around a lot. If someone like Glad or Lupo or someone, or Glatalion, like retweets me, that gets me followers. Like, and since I've, talked with those guys a bunch now, like you kind of get the effects of that a bit. I don't know, like, I don't think I'm like a huge name in the games journalism industry or anything. Like, there are so many better, like, journalists. Like, yeah, I cover Destiny a lot, but like, you have Schreier and Klepik doing like these really intense, deeply reported like labor issue stuff, and they're like the gold standard for like actual games journalism. I'm happy with what I'm doing. I like creating kind of more fun, entertaining content rather than just like hard, serious news stuff all the time. It's been fun becoming like a quote personality in the Destiny community, even without streaming. YouTube, I did not to like get more popular because I thought I got more popular. It was like 2020, and if you don't have like any sort of video presence, it's not great, and that's kind of a waste. So, I am very fortunate. Like a lot of people, it would take years and years and years to get to 20,000 subscribers, and I'm fortunate to have a base of you guys that got me there in like a couple months, and it's kind of a waste not to do that. And I still haven't made the full leap into streaming. That may still be to come, but there are only so many hours in the day, and streaming takes up a lot of time. And you can see from my YouTube, I'm not exactly spending a ton of time editing these. So if I wanted to go like super deep into YouTube and be like a skill up or a bite or something, like that takes way more work than I'm putting in. But it's been a fun experiment. All right, I should probably wrap this up because this is getting pretty long. But what impresses you most about D2 and what most disappoints you? 25th hat. That's a good question. I would say what disappoints me is kind of the pace at which very needed changes come to the game. It's not just about like balance stuff, which has gotten better, but it's stuff like no one liked consumable shaders from like day one, and yet we still have consumable shaders, or like everyone realized that getting 3 blue drops a Crucible match is not fun, and we still have that like years later. Stuff like that I do not enjoy. I would say what's impressed me most is the sheer, like, I know everyone's like, oh, this season's light on content, this expansion's light on content. Compared to what literally every other game in this industry is doing, like Bungie is producing probably the most substantive content for any game maker other than maybe a couple MMOs or something like Final Fantasy, but they are doing a phenomenal job at the content they are making. The amount of it, at least, like we can debate whether the hunts are good or things like that, but like this year especially, what they've done in a pandemic, I honestly don't even believe we had an expansion this year. I thought that they would have to change their whole thing, and then it only got delayed 2 months instead of like 8 months. So I have been very impressed with all of that. Their world building, their gunplay has remained top notch. It is deeply impressive. And I don't know, maybe I'll just end on a Destiny question. I'm sorry if I didn't get to yours. I'll do the one trip. From Forcado, what's the trip you wanted to make in 2020 the pandemic didn't allow for? I was supposed to go to Switzerland and France with my wife and our friends. That would have been a very cool trip. I haven't been to Europe since I proposed to my wife 10 years ago. So that would have been great, but that was planned literally right as the pandemic was erupting in spring. And then, of course, my own personal one that I would have gone to by myself is Guardian Con, and I am so sad that didn't happen, and I am kind of pre-sad that I think it might not happen this year either, but I don't want to jinx it. We'll see how things work with vaccines and public gatherings and stuff, but really hope it happens. Really hope I can meet some of you there in person now that you know my face and know what I look like, because that is not always true when I'm just writing. So anyway, this was fun. I'll probably do some of these Q&As from time to time and try and get some different questions rotated in, just when there's not as much going on with Destiny. I think in the next couple of weeks we'll probably have some more stuff happening with Destiny, with Season of the Hunt wrapping up. There's only like 5 weeks left or something, so we have to start getting to some of the major story components in the last couple of weeks here, even if the stuff is not going away seasonally like it used to. But yep, thanks for watching. Go claim your Ascendant Shard from Evil Levante for your Dawning Prize, and I will see you guys next time. Bye.